Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Brian Cooper always believed life had a plan for him. At 38, he worked as a civil engineer at a respected firm, overseeing major urban infrastructure projects. He was methodical, organized, the kind of guy who planned every detail before acting. His marriage to Amanda 6 years earlier had been exactly like that, planned, dreamed of, built brick by brick. She was a marketing manager at a rising cosmetics company, ambitious, full of energy, with a smile that lit up any room. When they met at a networking event, Brian knew right away he wanted to build a life with her. And he did. They bought a cozy house in a quiet Portland neighborhood, with a big backyard and 3 bedrooms, one mentally reserved for the child they both wanted. But Brian would learn that life doesn't always follow the plans we make. Almost 2 years ago, the couple started trying to get pregnant. At first, it was exciting, even romantic. But month after month, the negative test became routine. Amanda grew frustrated, crying alone in the bathroom. Brian comforted her, telling her it was just a matter of time, that everything would happen when it was supposed to. They saw doctors, ran tests. The results were always the same, nothing wrong with either of them, just bad luck and poor timing. The pressure started to build. Conversations about babies turned into heavy silences. Amanda buried herself in work, and about 8 months ago, she decided to focus on her health. "I need to take better care of myself, Brian," she said one morning, wearing new workout clothes. "I'm going back to the gym, eating better. Maybe that'll help." Brian supported her. Of course he did. He wanted her to feel good, confident. Amanda started waking up early to work out before work, coming home energized, always talking about her classes, her exercises, her renewed energy. Brian noticed the changes. She lost weight, got more toned, became more self-conscious. She bought new clothes, changed her haircut, was always in a good mood. He thought it was beautiful. He figured she was finally feeling better about herself after all the stress of trying to conceive. One autumn Thursday, Brian had a meeting cancelled at the last minute. The client needed to reschedule for personal reasons, so Brian decided to head home early, around 3 in the afternoon. It was rare to have an afternoon free, and he thought he'd surprise Amanda with a special dinner. Maybe reignite the spark, maybe even try to get pregnant that night. He stopped at the grocery store, bought ingredients for her favorite risotto, picked up a bottle of white wine, and drove home with a smile on his face. When he opened the front door, the living room was quiet, but he heard footsteps upstairs. "Amanda," he called, leaving the groceries in the kitchen. She came down quickly, wearing a bathrobe, her hair still damp. "Brian. You're home early," she said, beaming, almost too surprised. "Meeting got cancelled." "Thought I'd make you a special dinner," he replied, moving in to kiss her. But before he could, she grabbed his shoulders, her eyes shining in a way he hadn't seen in months. "Brian, I need to tell you something. Sit down with me." They sat on the living room sofa, and Amanda held his hands tightly. Brian felt his heart race. Was it bad news? Was she sick? "What is it, sweetheart?" he asked, trying to hide his anxiety. Amanda took a deep breath, eyes glistening, and pulled something from her robe pocket. It was a pregnancy test. Positive. 2 clear lines, unmistakable. "I'm pregnant, Brian." Finally. The world stopped. Brian felt a wave of emotion so intense he could barely breathe. He pulled Amanda into a tight hug, tears streaming down his face. "Really? Really? Oh my God, Amanda, I can't believe it," he kept repeating, laughing and crying at once. She laughed too, holding his face in her hands. "Finally, Brian. Finally, we're going to be parents." They sat there, wrapped in each other, for long minutes. Brian was already planning everything in his head, preparing the baby's room, choosing names, telling the family. He got up, walked around the room like he was floating, staring at the pregnancy test like it was the most precious thing in the world. "I need to call my dad, tell my mom, they're gonna lose it with joy," he said, pulling out his phone. Amanda smiled and said she was going to take a long shower. She was so emotional she needed to process it all. She went upstairs, and Brian heard the bathroom door close. He sat back down on the sofa, still holding the test, his heart overflowing. That's when Amanda's phone, left on the coffee table, started vibrating insistently. Brian glanced over absently. The screen lit up with messages coming in rapid succession. The contact name was Dr. Hayes. Brian frowned. He didn't remember Amanda mentioning a Dr. Hayes recently. Maybe it was the doctor she'd been seeing for fertility? But curiosity got the better of him. He picked up the phone. The screen was unlocked, and messages kept popping up. "Love, I can't believe it finally happened. Our baby, Jess. Can't wait to see you tonight." Brian's stomach dropped. "Love? Our baby?" He blinked, reread the message, his brain refusing to process it. Another message arrived. "You told him yet? Did he buy it?" "Huh, poor guy." Brian's hands began to shake. He swiped up, opening the message history. And there, right in front of his eyes, was months of betrayal. Passionate messages, intimate photos, secret meet-up plans. "Colin, you make me feel so alive," Amanda had written 3 months ago. "Can't wait to see you after my workout." Workout. The pieces crashed together like a runaway train. The workouts. The mornings she left early and came back glowing. The changes in her body, her mood, her vanity. It all made sense now. Brian kept scrolling, nausea rising with every line. Colin Hayes wasn't a doctor. He was Amanda's personal trainer. The photos confirmed it, a dark-haired, muscular man with tattoos on his arms, smiling beside Amanda in intimate selfies taken in locker rooms, in cars, in cheap motels. There were explicit messages, conversations about how much they hated having to hide, about how Brian never suspected a thing. And then, the most recent message, from 2 hours ago, "Took the test this morning. Positive, Colin. It's yours. Our baby is finally here." Colin's reply, "Holy crap, love. This changes everything. But what about Brian? And Amanda, I'll say it's his. He'll believe it. We keep things as they are, no rush." Brian dropped the phone like it was burning. He stood up, stumbled into the kitchen, leaned on the counter, trying to breathe. The room spun around him. The baby wasn't his. The baby he'd just celebrated, the one he'd already loved, the one he'd already planned for in his mind, it wasn't his. It was his wife's lover's. He felt bile rise in his throat but swallowed it down. No. He wouldn't throw up. He wouldn't break down. Not yet. With trembling hands, Brian grabbed his own phone and started taking screenshots of every message, every photo, every conversation. He didn't know exactly why, but his instinct for self-preservation screamed inside him, "Save it all. You're going to need it." He sent all the screenshots to his own email, saved them in 3 separate cloud folders. Only then, when he finished, did he hear the shower stop upstairs. Amanda was coming. Brian walked back to the living room, leaving her phone exactly where it had been. He sat on the sofa, crossed his arms, and waited. Every second felt like an eternity. He could hear his own heartbeat in his ears, felt the anger rising, mixed with a pain so deep it felt physical. A few minutes later, Amanda came down, wearing a light top and sweatpants, hair dry, a calm smile on her face. "Sorry I took so long, love. I was just," she began, then stopped when she saw Brian's expression. He was motionless, staring at her, his face a hard mask. "Brian? You okay?" Brian didn't answer right away. He simply reached out, picked up her phone from the table, and dropped it in her lap. Unlocked. Full of messages. From Dr. Hayes. Or should I say Colin? Amanda went pale instantly. She picked up the phone, looked at the screen, and Brian saw panic flood her face. "Brian, let me explain." Brian repeated, voice low, dangerously calm. "You're going to explain how you were sleeping with your personal trainer for the last 8 months? Or how the baby you just made me celebrate isn't mine? What explanation do you have, Amanda?" She started crying, hands shaking. "Brian, please, let me talk. I read it all, Amanda. Everything. The messages, the photos, the plans. I'll say it's his, he'll believe it. Those were your words. You planned to deceive me. You made me believe I was going to be a father while carrying another man's child." Brian stood up, voice rising. 6 years, Amanda. 6 years of marriage. I did everything for you. Paid the bills when you wanted to switch jobs, took you on trips, supported you when you said you wanted to focus on the gym. And this is how you repaid me? Amanda sobbed, trying to reach for him, but Brian stepped back. "Don't touch me. Brian, please, I messed up, I know I did, but you were so distant, so focused on work, I felt so alone." Brian let out a bitter, humorless laugh. "I was distant because I was building a life for us, for our family. While I was burning the midnight oil on projects to secure our future, you were in some cheap motel with Colin, laughing at my expense." He took a step forward, eyes locked on hers. "And the worst part, Amanda, isn't even the cheating. It's the coldness. You planned this. You knew the baby wasn't mine, and still you came here, with that smile, made me cry with joy, knowing it was all a lie. What kind of person does that?" Amanda collapsed onto the sofa, covering her face with her hands. "I didn't want to hurt you, Brian, I swear, I fell in love, I didn't plan this, didn't plan it." Brian interrupted. "I read the messages, Amanda. You planned every meetup, every lie. I'll say I have a conference, I'll say it's an extra session. Every morning workout was to see him. You looked me in the eyes every day and lied. That was planned." Brian pulled out his phone, opened the folder with the screenshots, and showed her. "I saved it all. Every message, every photo. And I'm going to use it." Amanda lifted her head, red-eyed. "Use it for what?" "For the divorce, Amanda. You really think I'm staying married to you after this? It's over. Our marriage ended the second you decided to cheat." "Brian, no, please, we can try, couples therapy, I'll end things with Colin." End things with Colin?" Brian cut in, voice dripping with sarcasm. "You're pregnant with his child, Amanda. He's the father. Did you forget?" He leaned in, eyes icy. "And by the way, when the baby's born, I'm demanding a paternity test. Just to officially confirm I have nothing to do with this. I don't want you or him trying to tie me down with child support or anything else later. This kid isn't mine, and I'm going to prove it." Amanda fell silent, broken. Brian walked away, grabbed his car keys. "I'm staying at a hotel tonight. Tomorrow I'm calling my lawyer. You have until the end of the week to start moving your things out, because this house is mine, bought before the marriage. Oregon's a no-fault divorce state, so it'll be quick. And don't try to reach me, Amanda. Don't call, don't text, nothing. It's over." He walked to the door, but before stepping out, he turned one last time. "And just so you know, I really loved you. Truly. I was going to be the best father in the world to our child. But you destroyed that. So now you'll live with the consequences. Good luck with Colin. I hope he's half the man I was to you." And he left, slamming the door. In the days that followed, Brian moved with the efficiency that always defined his work. He hired a divorce lawyer on the following Monday, presented all the evidence of the affair, and formally filed for separation. Since the house was in his name before the marriage, and Oregon followed equitable distribution of assets acquired during the union, Brian kept the property, splitting only the joint savings accumulated over the last few years. The process was surprisingly fast. Amanda didn't contest anything, probably out of shame or knowing she had no arguments. Brian also made sure the truth came out. He wasn't a gossip, but he felt the truth needed to be known. He told Amanda's parents, a religious, conservative couple living in Salem, an hour from Portland. Their reaction was devastating. Amanda's mother, Dorothy, a rigid woman with traditional values, called her daughter in tears, saying she was ashamed and disappointed. Her father, Gerald, simply cut off contact, refusing to speak to Amanda. They called Brian, apologized on their daughter's behalf, saying they hadn't raised her to be like this. Brian thanked them for the call but said he just wanted to move on. Their friends found out too. Brian didn't have to try hard, just told two close friends, and the news spread. The response was unanimous, everyone sided with Brian. Amanda lost invitations to barbecues, dinners, even WhatsApp groups were muted for her. The exposure reached Amanda's workplace too. Some co-workers from the cosmetics company were mutual friends, and when they heard about the affair and the pregnancy, the gossip spread internally. Though no one could officially fire her over personal matters, the social pressure and hostile atmosphere led Amanda to resign 3 weeks later, citing personal reasons. She tried sending Brian messages, dozens of them, begging for a conversation, saying she was sorry, that she understood his pain. Brian read the first few, then stopped. He blocked the number. But the final blow came from where Amanda least expected, Colin. When the affair went public and Colin realized he was now the acknowledged father of a child, he panicked. He was a 35-year-old personal trainer, single, living paycheck to paycheck, never planning to be a dad. He tried keeping in touch with Amanda in the first few weeks, but as the weight of responsibility and social exposure settled on him, after all, he was known at the gym, and rumors reached there too, he simply disappeared. First, he stopped replying to messages as often. Then he started making excuses not to meet Amanda. And then, a month after Brian and Amanda's separation, Colin sent a cowardly, cold message, "Sorry, Amanda, but I'm not ready for this. I didn't ask to be a dad. I think we should go our separate ways. Good luck with everything." And he blocked her number. Amanda was completely alone. No husband, no lover, no family, no job, pregnant and facing the reality of raising a child with no support. She tried calling her mom, who answered only to say she needed time to process, and hung up. She reached out to old friends, but they were all busy or simply didn't reply. The loneliness was crushing. Meanwhile, Brian began rebuilding. It wasn't easy. There were nights he stared at the ceiling of the hotel where he was temporarily staying and felt the physical ache of the betrayal. There were moments he picked up his phone, almost called Amanda, almost gave in to the urge to hear her voice. But he always stopped. He remembered the messages, her laughter with Colin at his expense, the coldness with which she'd planned to lie about paternity. And then the urge passed. He moved into a modern downtown Portland apartment, a loft with big windows and a city view. He decorated it his way, minimal, functional, without traces of the past. He started therapy, something he'd never considered before, and it became one of the best decisions he'd ever made. His therapist helped him process his anger, his sadness, the feeling of being deceived. Brian also returned to things he loved, running in the park on Saturdays, cooking elaborate meals on Sundays, going to bars to watch soccer with friends. He traveled alone for the first time in his life, spent a week in Vancouver, then another in San Diego, breathing new air, meeting new people. 6 months after the separation, the divorce was officially finalized. Brian received the paperwork in the mail and, strangely, didn't feel sadness. He felt relief. It was the definitive closing of a painful chapter. He was different now. Leaner, stronger, more confident. He'd learned to live alone, to enjoy his own company, to not depend on anyone to be happy. His friends noticed the change. "You're a different person, Brian," said Jake, his best friend, during a happy hour. "True. I think Amanda did you a favor without meaning to." Brian laughed. "Not sure it was a favor, but I definitely learned who I don't want in my life anymore." It was on one of those nights, at a downtown Portland cafe, that Brian met Laura, a 34-year-old environmental engineer who'd just moved to the city. They started talking by chance. She asked to share his table because the cafe was packed, and the conversation flowed naturally. There was no pressure, no expectations. Just two people getting to know each other, laughing, swapping stories. Brian didn't mention Amanda that night. He didn't need to. He was living in the present, and for the first time in months, he felt like the future could be good again. One spring morning, almost 8 months after the separation, Brian woke to a notification on his phone. It was a message from an unknown number. He almost deleted it without looking, but something made him open it. It was Amanda. "Brian, I know you blocked me, but I got this number from a friend. I just needed you to know the baby was born. A boy. He's healthy. I know you don't want to hear anything, and I respect that, but I needed you to know I'm sorry. For everything. I destroyed the best thing I ever had, and now I'm paying for it. Colin didn't want anything to do with the baby. My family barely speaks to me. I'm alone, Brian. And I deserve it. But I wanted you to know I really loved you, in my wrong, selfish way. I hope you're happy. You deserve it." Attached was a photo. A newborn baby, eyes closed, wrapped in a blue blanket. Brian stared at the photo for a long moment. He felt a pang, a distant echo of the pain he'd felt that terrible day 8 months ago. But that was all. Just a pang. No anger, no sadness. Just indifference. He typed a short, direct reply, "Amanda, I hope you find your way back. Learn from your mistakes and be a good mother to your son. But this isn't my problem anymore. I've moved on. I suggest you do the same. Good luck." He sent the message, blocked the number again, and turned off his phone. He looked out the apartment window, watching the city wake up under the morning sun. Today he had breakfast plans with Laura. They'd walk through the flower market, then maybe grab brunch. He smiled. Life, after all, had given him a second chance. And this time, he wouldn't waste it. Meanwhile, across town, Amanda held her baby in her arms, alone in a small, quiet apartment she shared with a roommate. She looked at her phone, saw Brian's reply, and felt tears fall. She knew she'd lost everything because of her own choices, the husband who loved her, the family that supported her, the life she'd had. And now, looking at the child in her arms, the product of a betrayal that destroyed it all, she finally understood the true weight of her actions. There would be no turning back. No forgiveness. Just the long road of consequence, which she'd have to walk alone. And in that moment, holding the baby who softly cried, Amanda understood the bitterest lesson of all: some choices can't be undone, and some pains never heal. Brian had moved on. She was left behind, trapped in the ruins of what she'd destroyed. And so, on opposite sides of Portland, two lives followed completely different paths. Brian, rebuilt and reborn, embracing a future full of possibilities. Amanda, shattered and lonely, facing the consequences of her choices. Poetic justice had been served. Not with violence, not with calculated revenge, but simply with the truth coming to light, and life following its natural course. Brian learned that not every pain needs an answer. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply living well. And he was living. Finally, truly, living. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.